You ever feel like you're doing everything right with your credit card but somehow you're still getting played? Like straight up, you're paying on time every single month, you're checking your app religiously, you're keeping that balance manageable, and yet, something just feels off. You can't quite put your finger on it, but deep down you know the game isn't really in your favor. Here's the thing, dude. Most people think being a responsible cardholder means you're winning. You're crushing it, right? Making those minimum payments, maybe even throwing a little extra on there when you can. You're avoiding late fees, your credit score is looking decent, and you're basically doing what every financial guru tells you to do. But real talk? That's exactly where they want you. That's the sweet spot for them, not for you. And honestly, it's kinda wild how many of us are out here thinking we're being smart when we're actually just playing right into their hands. You know what's crazy? The credit card companies aren't making their money off the people who mess up. Nah, they're banking, literally banking, on folks like you. The ones who pay consistently, who carry a balance month to month, who think they're managing their debt responsibly. Because here's what nobody tells you. There's this whole system designed to keep you right where you are. Not drowning, but definitely not free either. Just stuck. Comfortable enough to keep going, but never quite getting ahead. Have you ever actually looked at your statement and tried to figure out where all your money is going? Like really looked at it? Because I'm telling you, most people haven't. They see the minimum payment, they see the due date, they pay it, and they move on. But if you dig into the details, and I mean really dig, you start to see some sketchy stuff happening behind the scenes. Interest charges that don't quite add up the way you thought they would. Fees that pop up out of nowhere. Payment allocation that seems strategic. Almost like it's designed to maximize how much you end up paying over time. And here's where it gets even more twisted. The better you are at staying current, the more they profit. You think paying your bill on time makes you a bad customer for them? Nah man. You're literally their ideal customer. Because you're reliable. You're predictable. And most importantly, you're paying them way more than you probably realize. FICA Kamigo 80 final, because what I'm about to break down is something most people never figure out until they've already spent years, sometimes decades, stuck in this cycle. And the thing is, it's not even your fault. This whole system is built on information asymmetry. They know exactly how it works. You're just trying to be responsible and not mess up your credit. But what if I told you that everything you think you know about being good with credit cards is actually keeping you trapped? What if those monthly payments you're so proud of making are actually the problem, not the solution? What if the reason you can't seem to get ahead isn't because you're bad with money, but because the game itself is rigged from the start? You already know something's up. That's why you're still here. That feeling you get when you look at your balance and think, wait, didn't I already pay a bunch of this off? That's real. That confusion when your available credit doesn't seem to increase even though you've been paying consistently? Also real. And that nagging sense that maybe, just maybe, you're being taken advantage of even though you're doing everything right? Yeah, you might want to sit down for this one. Because what you're about to discover isn't just some random tip or hack. This is the actual blueprint they don't want you to see. The actual blueprint they don't want you to see. Look, before we go any further, if what I just said already hit different for you, if you're sitting there like, damn, that's literally me, then do me a solid real quick. Smash that like button, because here's the deal. The algorithm only pushes content that gets engagement early. And if this video doesn't get traction in the first hour, it basically dies and way fewer people end up seeing this stuff. I'm not out here trying to sell you anything or push some course. I'm literally just breaking down the system as it actually works. So if you want more people to wake up to this, that like genuinely matters. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button too, because I'm gonna keep pulling back the curtain on all the financial games that keep regular people stuck. This is the kind of content that actually changes how you see money, and I need you here for what's coming next. Now back to what we were talking about. Let me paint you a picture of someone you probably know really well. Maybe it's even you. This person wakes up every morning, grinds through their day, handles their responsibilities like a champ. They're not out here living recklessly or making wild financial decisions. They've got their credit card and they use it for the usual stuff: groceries, gas, maybe a dinner out here and there, some online shopping when they need something. Nothing crazy. They're not maxing it out or going on spending sprees. They're being what everyone would call responsible. Every month, like clockwork, they get that notification. Statements ready. They open it up, see the balance, see the minimum payment. Sometimes they pay the minimum, sometimes they throw a little extra on there when things are good. They hit that pay button and boom. Done. Paid. On time. No late fees, no collection calls, no drama. They feel pretty good about it too, you know? Like, okay, I'm handling my business. I'm adulting correctly. Their credit score reflects it. Everything looks solid on paper. They're doing exactly what society tells them they should be doing. But here's where things start getting weird, and this is where that uncomfortable feeling I mentioned earlier starts creeping in. This person, let's call them Alex because honestly, Alex could be anyone. Alex starts noticing something strange. Every month they're making these payments. Sometimes $50, sometimes $100, sometimes even more when they get a decent paycheck. But when they log into their account the next month, the balance doesn't seem to be dropping the way they expected. Like, they remember paying off a chunk last month, but somehow the number is still hovering around the same range. At first, Alex brushes it off. Maybe they spent more than they realized. Maybe they're just not keeping track properly. Life gets busy, right? Bills pile up, expenses happen, and it's easy to lose sight of the details when you're just trying to keep your head above water. So they keep doing what they're doing. Paying every month. Staying current. Being responsible. Checking all the boxes that supposedly matter. Months turn into a year. Then 2 years. Alex is still paying. Still on time. Still responsible. But that balance? It's basically become this permanent fixture in their life. Sometimes it goes down a little, sometimes it creeps back up, but it never really goes away. And the wild part is, when Alex actually sits down and tries to calculate how much they've paid total over these 2 years, the number is staggering. Like, genuinely shocking. They've paid thousands of dollars into this card. Literally thousands. But the balance is still there, just chilling, barely budging. This is when the questions start hitting different. Alex starts wondering, where is all that money actually going? Because logically, if you're putting in, let's say, $1,200 a year in payments, over 2 years that's $2,400. That should make a serious dent, right? That should be noticeable progress. But the statement doesn't reflect that kind of movement. The available credit isn't increasing dramatically. The principal balance seems almost stubborn, like it's resistant to going down. And here's what really messes with people's heads. Alex isn't even living large. They're not buying designer clothes or taking luxury vacations. They're literally just covering normal life expenses. Groceries, utilities, car maintenance, the occasional necessity that pops up because, life happens. Nothing extravagant. Nothing that should justify this feeling of being perpetually in debt despite paying consistently month after month after month. So Alex does what any rational person would do. They start looking closer at the statements. Not just the big numbers at the top, the actual breakdown. And this is where things get really interesting because buried in those statements are details that most people never really examine. There's this line item called interest charged that shows up every single cycle. Sometimes it's $20, sometimes it's $40, sometimes more depending on the balance and how the month shook out. Alex always knew interest existed, obviously, but seeing it itemized month after month starts to create this uncomfortable realization. Every single payment Alex makes gets divided up. A portion goes to the actual balance, what they actually spent and owe. Another portion goes straight to interest, basically the cost of carrying that balance. And here's the kicker that most people don't fully grasp until they really think about it. When you make a minimum payment or even slightly above minimum, the majority of that money is getting eaten up by interest charges and fees before it even touches your actual debt. The transformation from "I'm paying my bill" to "I'm mostly paying the bank to let me owe them money" is subtle but massive. Alex starts doing the math differently now. They realize that if their balance is, say, $3,000 and their interest rate is around 20% APR, which is pretty standard, honestly, that means they're getting hit with roughly $50 in interest every month just for the privilege of owing that money. So if they pay $100, only half of it is actually reducing what they spent. The other half is pure profit for the credit card company. It's like trying to climb a hill while someone's pulling you backwards, and you didn't even realize they were there. This revelation creates this gnarly internal conflict, because Alex has been operating under the assumption that paying consistently equals progress. That being responsible means you're winning. But the reality that's emerging from these statements tells a completely different story. The reality is that the system is designed to keep you engaged in this cycle for as long as possible. Not to help you get out of debt quickly, but to maximize how much money they can extract from you while you're in it. And the wildest part? This isn't some conspiracy theory or hidden scheme. It's literally right there in the terms and conditions that nobody reads. It's in the fine print that gets glossed over when you're applying. It's in the payment structure that seems straightforward but is actually incredibly calculated. The whole setup is engineered to feel manageable while being quietly, consistently profitable for them and costly for you. Alex starts talking to friends about this, and almost everyone has the same story with minor variations. They've been paying for years. They're current. They're responsible. But they're not free. They're stuck in this weird limbo where they're doing what they're supposed to do, but it's not producing the results they expected. It's like being told that if you work out every day you'll get fit, but then you work out every day and nothing really changes, and nobody tells you that the workout plan itself is designed to keep you coming back indefinitely without ever actually reaching your goal. The psychological impact of this realization is heavy, because it means that all those months and years of discipline, of sacrificing other things to make sure that payment went through on time, of feeling proud about staying current, all of that effort was essentially being redirected into a system that benefits someone else way more than it benefits you. The sense of control you thought you had? Mostly an illusion. The progress you thought you were making? Largely negated by mechanics you weren't fully aware of. Now Alex is at this crossroads. Keep doing what they've been doing, knowing what they know now, or figure out a different approach entirely. But here's the problem. Most people don't know there's another way. They think this is just how credit works, how debt works, how the financial world operates. You borrow, you pay back, and yeah, there's interest involved, but that's just the cost of using credit, right? What else are you supposed to do? Commenta AI, Tenessa Hornata Tambum, Porque I guarantee you're not the only one feeling this exact way right now. So here's where we gotta go deeper, because understanding that you're stuck is only half the battle. What's really insidious about this whole thing is how it plays with your psychology. Like, on a deep level, the system isn't just designed to extract money from you, it's designed to make you feel okay about it. And that's the real genius behind it all. Think about what happens every month when you make that payment. There's this little hit of relief, right? You check off the box. You fulfilled your obligation. You avoided the penalty. For a brief moment, you get to feel responsible, like you're handling your business. That feeling is real, and it matters because it keeps you coming back to do the same thing next month. It's this weird cycle of temporary relief followed by ongoing obligation, and it never actually ends. You're essentially buying yourself another 30 days of not feeling guilty or stressed about that bill, but you're not actually moving toward freedom. This is where the psychological toll starts compounding in ways people don't talk about enough. Because every month, you're in this position where you have to make a decision about that payment. Do you pay the minimum and keep more cash on hand for other stuff? Do you pay extra and feel the squeeze in your budget? Do you juggle other bills to make sure this one gets handled? It becomes this constant background stress, this thing that's always there demanding your attention and your money. And the exhausting part is that it never feels like you're making real progress. You're just maintaining, treading water, staying afloat but never actually swimming to shore. The credit card companies understand this dynamic incredibly well. They've done the research, run the numbers, studied the behavior patterns. They know that most people will fall into this rhythm of paying just enough to stay current but not enough to actually get out. And that's where they make their money, not from people who pay off their balance in full every month, and not from people who default and stop paying altogether. Their bread and butter is the middle group, the responsible strugglers. The people who are doing their best, making consistent payments, but never quite escaping the gravitational pull of that balance. What makes this even more twisted is how normalized it all is. Like, we live in a culture where carrying credit card debt is just standard. It's expected. It's part of adult life. People talk about their credit card balances the way they talk about having a car payment or a mortgage. It's just one of those things you deal with. And because everyone's in the same boat, it doesn't feel urgent to question it. You look around and see your friends, your coworkers, your family members all doing the same dance, so it must be fine, right? This must be how it works. But here's what's really going on behind the curtain that most people never see. The entire business model of credit card companies is built on what's called revolving credit. The word revolving is key here because it means the debt cycles through indefinitely. You charge, you pay some of it down, you charge again, you pay some more, but the cycle keeps spinning. And as long as you're in that spin cycle, they're collecting interest every single month on whatever balance you're carrying. The money you're paying isn't just going toward what you bought. It's funding their entire operation, their profits, their shareholder dividends, everything. Now let me break down something that's gonna blow your mind a little bit. When you make a minimum payment, or even slightly above minimum, the way that payment gets allocated is not random. Strategic. By law, anything you pay above the minimum has to go toward the highest interest rate balance first, but the minimum payment itself? That gets split up in a way that prioritizes interest and fees. So if you're paying exactly the minimum, you're basically covering the interest that accrued during that billing cycle plus a tiny sliver of principal. It's designed to keep you in the game as long as possible. Let's say you've got a $3,000 balance at 20% APR, and your minimum payment is like $60. Out of that $60, roughly $50 is going to interest and fees and maybe $10, if that, is actually touching your principal balance. So you're putting in $60 of your hard-earned money, and you're only making a $10 dent in what you actually owe. Do that for a year, and you've paid $720 but only reduced your debt by maybe $120. The math is brutal when you actually run it. And here's the thing that really messes with people once they realize it. This isn't a secret. This isn't hidden. It's all disclosed. It's in the statements, it's in the terms, it's in the fine print. But the way it's presented makes it feel like background information, like technical details that don't really matter as long as you're paying on time. The truth is, those details are everything. They're the entire game. And most people never look at them closely enough to understand what's actually happening to their money every month. This creates this profound sense of futility over time. You're working hard, you're earning money, you're being disciplined about making payments, and yet you're not getting ahead. You're on this treadmill where no matter how much effort you put in, the scenery doesn't change. The balance hovers. The interest keeps accruing. The minimum payment keeps coming due. And you start to internalize this belief that maybe you're just bad with money, or maybe you don't make enough, or maybe you're doing something wrong that you can't quite identify. But the reality is, you're playing a game where the rules are designed to keep you from winning. The mental and emotional weight of this is real. It's not just about the money itself, it's about what it represents. Every time you make that payment and see the balance barely move, it reinforces this feeling of being trapped. Every time you have to choose between paying extra on the card or doing something else with that money, you're reminded of your constraints. Every time you think about how long you've been paying and how little progress you've made, it chips away at your sense of control and agency. This is what financial stress actually looks like in day-to-day life. It's not always dramatic. It's this low-grade, persistent anxiety that colors everything else. And the companies know this too. They know that as long as they keep you engaged, as long as you keep making those payments, they've got a steady stream of revenue from you. You're not a customer at that point, you're an asset on their balance sheet. Your debt is their income. Your interest payments are their profit margins. The longer you stay in the cycle, the more valuable you are to them. There's no incentive for them to help you get out quickly, because that would mean losing a revenue stream. Now, I know what some people might be thinking. Well, that's just capitalism, that's just how business works. And sure, on some level that's true. But there's a difference between a fair exchange of value and a system that's deliberately designed to keep people dependent and struggling. There's a difference between transparency and technical disclosure that nobody understands. There's a difference between empowering people with financial tools and trapping them in cycles that benefit the lender way more than the borrower. The transformation that needs to happen isn't just financial, it's mental. It's about seeing the system for what it actually is, not what you've been told it is. It's about understanding the mechanics so deeply that you can't unsee them. Because once you really get how this works, once you understand where your money is actually going and why the progress feels so slow, you can't go back to just accepting it as normal. The veil gets lifted, and suddenly all those little frustrations and confusions make perfect sense. Right now, if you've been nodding along, if any of this is hitting home, drop a comment and just say, "I see it now," because I need to know this is resonating. And real talk, stick with me here because what's coming next is going to tie all of this together in a way that might actually change how you handle this whole situation moving forward. What I want to show you next is what actually happens when someone decides to break the pattern. What I want to show you next is what actually happens when someone decides to break the pattern. Because here's where the story gets really interesting and honestly, kinda heartbreaking when you realize how much time gets lost in this whole thing. Let's go back to Alex for a second. Remember, Alex has been paying consistently for years now. They've dumped thousands of dollars into this card, doing everything society told them was right. But something shifted after they started actually looking at those statements and doing the math. That shift wasn't just intellectual, it was emotional. Because when you calculate how much money you've paid and compare it to how little your balance has actually decreased, the gap between those two numbers represents something real. That's your time. That's your labor. That's your sacrifices. That's the extra shifts you worked, the things you didn't buy for yourself, the experiences you postponed because you needed to be responsible and make that payment. Alex sits down one night and does a full audit. They pull up every statement from the past 3 years. They create a spreadsheet. Yeah, it gets that serious, and they track every single payment they made and every single interest charge that hit their account. And when they see the total, when they see that they've paid nearly $5,000 over 3 years but their balance has only dropped by about $800, something breaks inside them. Not in a destructive way but in a clarity kind of way. Like when you've been looking at one of those optical illusion images and suddenly you see the hidden picture and you can't unsee it. $5,000. That's not chump change. That's a decent used car. That's multiple vacations. That's 6 months of rent in some places. That's a down payment on something meaningful. But instead, it went into this black hole where the vast majority of it just evaporated into interest charges and fees, with only a fraction actually addressing the original debt. And the gut punch realization is that if they continue on this same path, making the same minimum or slightly above minimum payments, it's gonna take them another 7 to 10 years to pay this thing off completely, and they'll end up paying nearly double the original amount they borrowed. This is the moment where the illusion of progress completely shatters. Because progress implies forward momentum. Progress implies that your efforts are accumulating toward a goal. But what Alex has been experiencing isn't progress, it's maintenance. They've been maintaining a debt, not eliminating it. They've been feeding a system, not freeing themselves from it. And the psychological damage of realizing you've spent years of your life working hard to essentially stay in the same place is profound. Now here's what makes this even more devastating. Alex isn't unique. This exact scenario is playing out in millions of households across the country right now. People who think they're handling their business, who are proud of staying current, who genuinely believe they're making progress because they're paying every month. But the math doesn't lie. The statements don't lie. The time lost doesn't lie. And when you actually confront those numbers head-on, it creates this crisis of understanding where you have to reconcile what you thought was happening with what's actually happening. The shame that comes with this realization is real too, and nobody talks about it enough. There's this internalized narrative that if you're in debt, it's because you messed up somehow. You weren't smart enough, you weren't disciplined enough, you made bad choices. And society reinforces this constantly. We treat debt like a moral failing instead of what it often is, a structural problem designed to extract maximum value from people who are just trying to live their lives. So when people like Alex realize they've been stuck in this cycle for years, they don't just feel frustrated, they feel embarrassed. They feel stupid. They feel like they should have known better, should have figured this out sooner. But here's the truth that needs to be said loud and clear. This is not a personal failure. This is not about lacking intelligence or discipline. This is about a system that is deliberately opaque, intentionally complex, and strategically designed to work this way. The people who created this system are not hoping you pay off your balance quickly. They're hoping you carry it for as long as possible while making consistent payments. That's the business model. That's the whole point. And they've made it so normalized, so accepted, so woven into the fabric of everyday financial life that questioning it feels almost radical. Alex starts looking into alternatives, trying to figure out if there's a way to escape this faster. They research balance transfers, debt consolidation, payment strategies. And yeah, some of those options can help, but they also come with their own catches and complications. Balance transfer cards often have fees and introductory periods that expire, after which the interest rate jumps back up. Debt consolidation loans might lower your interest rate but extend your payment timeline, meaning you're still paying for years and years. And all of these options still operate within the same basic framework. You're still in debt, you're still making payments, you're still locked into a system that profits from your obligation. The deeper Alex digs, the more they realize that the problem isn't just their specific credit card or their specific situation. The problem is foundational. It's about how consumer credit is structured in this country, how interest compounds, how payments are allocated, how minimum payments are calculated to maximize lender profit while giving borrowers the illusion of affordability. Every piece of the puzzle is designed with the lender's interests prioritized over the borrower's well-being. And here's something that really trips people up when they discover it: the concept of compound interest working against you. Most people have heard of compound interest as this magical thing that helps your savings grow over time, right? You put money in an investment account and it earns interest, and then you earn interest on that interest and it snowballs in your favor. But that same mechanism works in reverse when you're in debt. Your balance accrues interest, and if you don't pay that interest off completely, it gets added to your principal, and then you're paying interest on the interest you already owed. It's a snowball rolling downhill, except you're at the bottom and it's headed straight for you. For someone like Alex, who's been paying diligently but not aggressively enough to stay ahead of the interest, this means that every month they're essentially running up a down escalator. They're moving, they're expending energy, but the escalator is moving faster than they are, so they're not actually ascending. And the frustrating part is that the escalator speed, the interest rate, is completely out of their control. They can't negotiate it down without doing a whole balance transfer dance. They can't opt out of it. It's just there, constantly working against them, constantly taking a cut of everything they pay. Now I want to be real with you about something that doesn't get discussed enough in personal finance conversations. The emotional and mental energy that this whole situation drains from people is massive. Like, we talk about money in terms of dollars and cents, but we don't talk enough about the cognitive load of managing debt, the anxiety of juggling payments, the constant mental math of figuring out what you can and can't afford, the stress of watching your balance hover despite your best efforts. That energy could be going toward creativity, toward building something, toward rest and recovery, toward relationships and experiences. Instead, it's getting consumed by financial maintenance that doesn't even produce meaningful results. Alex finds themselves lying awake at night doing calculations in their head. If I pay an extra $50 this month, how much faster will this go? If I cut back on this expense and that expense, can I throw an extra 100 at it? Is it even worth it at this point, or should I just accept that this is going to take forever? These aren't the thoughts of someone who's irresponsible or careless. These are the thoughts of someone who's trapped in a system that's working exactly as designed, and the design is exhausting. The revelation that's emerging for Alex, and for anyone who's really paying attention to this dynamic, is that the game is rigged, but not in an illegal way. It's rigged in a completely legal, totally normalized, widely accepted way. The rules are written by the people who benefit from them. The structure favors the lender at every turn. And the cultural narrative around personal responsibility and financial discipline serves to keep people blaming themselves instead of questioning the system. Here's what really gets me about all of this. The amount of human potential that's being siphoned off by this system is staggering. Think about all the people who are working extra hours just to make credit card payments that barely touch their principal. Think about all the entrepreneurial ideas that never get pursued because people are too financially stretched and stressed to take risks. Think about all the education that doesn't happen, the health issues that don't get addressed, the opportunities that get passed up because people are stuck servicing debt that's designed to persist as long as possible. Alex is starting to see their situation not just as a personal problem but as part of a much larger pattern. And that perspective shift is crucial because it transforms the question from "what did I do wrong?" to "what is this system doing to people like me?" That's a fundamentally different question with fundamentally different implications. Drop a comment if you've ever felt like you were doing everything right but still not getting anywhere, because what I'm about to tell you next is going to connect all these dots in a way that finally makes sense of why this keeps happening. Drop a comment if you've ever felt like you were doing everything right but still not getting anywhere, because what I'm about to tell you next is going to connect all these dots in a way that finally makes sense of why this keeps happening. So let's get into the absolute core of this thing, the mechanism that's been working against you this entire time, even when you thought you were doing everything correctly. And I'm going to be straight up with you. Once you understand this, you can't unknow it, and it's probably going to make you feel some type of way about every payment you've made up until this point. The fundamental truth is this. Credit card companies don't make their real money from people who pay off their balances in full every month. Those people are called deadbeats in the industry. Yeah, that's actually the term they use internally. Wild, right? The people who use credit responsibly and never carry a balance are considered the least valuable customers. And they don't make their money from people who default either, because defaults are losses. The goldmine, the absolute sweet spot for these companies, is people who carry a balance indefinitely while making consistent payments. They call these people revolvers because their debt revolves month after month, year after year. And if you've been making minimum or near minimum payments, congratulations, you're in their favorite customer category. Here's the structural trap that keeps this whole system running. When you make a payment, any payment, on a credit card with a balance, that payment doesn't just reduce your debt in a straightforward way. It gets filtered through this allocation system that prioritizes the lender's interests first. The way it works is actually pretty sinister when you break it down. Your minimum payment is calculated as a percentage of your total balance, usually somewhere between 1 and 3%, but it's specifically designed to be just high enough that you feel like you're making progress, while being low enough that the majority of it gets consumed by interest and fees before touching your principal. Let me give you concrete numbers so this really hits home. Say you've got a $5,000 balance on a card with a 22% APR, which is pretty standard these days. Your minimum payment might be something like $125. Sounds manageable, right? You can swing that. But here's what's actually happening with that payment. At 22% annual interest, you're getting hit with roughly $91 in interest charges every single month. So out of your $125 payment, $91 immediately goes to interest. That leaves $34 actually reducing your principal. You're paying $125, but you're only making a $34 dent in what you actually owe. Now extrapolate that over time. If you keep paying just the minimum on that $5,000 balance, you're going to be paying for somewhere between 15 and 20 years. Let that sink in. 15 to 20 years. And by the time you finally pay it off, you'll have paid over $10,000 total for that original $5,000 debt. You will have literally paid more than double what you borrowed, and every single month for nearly 2 decades. you'll be making a payment that feels productive but is mostly just feeding the interest machine. This is the hidden architecture of consumer debt that nobody explains when you're signing up for these cards. They show you the credit limit, they mention the interest rate in passing, they highlight the rewards program and the cashback offers. But they never sit you down and say, hey, just so you know, if you carry a balance and make minimum payments, you're gonna be our customer for the next 10 to 20 years, and we're gonna extract double the amount you borrowed from you over that time period. That's not part of the sales pitch. That's not in the commercials. That's not what the guy at the table in the mall is telling you when you sign up to get a free t-shirt. The psychology behind this is incredibly calculated. The minimum payment is designed to be affordable enough that you can pretty much always make it, even when money's tight. It's low enough that missing it feels irresponsible, so you prioritize it. You sacrifice other things to make sure that payment goes through because you don't want to be late, you don't want to hurt your credit score, you don't want to deal with the fees and the phone calls. So you pay it. Every month. On time. Feeling responsible. Meanwhile, the balance barely budges, the interest keeps compounding, and the cycle continues indefinitely. And here's the really twisted part that a lot of people don't realize until it's too late. Even if you stop using the card entirely, even if you cut it up and never charge another dollar to it, if you're only making minimum payments, you're still going to be paying it off for years. Because that interest doesn't stop. It doesn't care that you stop spending. It keeps accruing on whatever balance remains, every single day, compounding monthly. Your debt becomes this living thing that feeds on itself, growing faster than your minimum payments can kill it. Now let's talk about what happens when you try to accelerate the process. Say you realize this is happening and you decide to pay more than the minimum. You start throwing an extra 50 or 100 bucks at it every month. That's good, right? That's progress. And yeah, it is better than just paying the minimum. But here's what most people don't understand. That extra money does reduce your principal faster, but the interest is still calculating off your average daily balance for the entire billing cycle. So even when you make a big payment, the interest for next month is already baking in based on what your balance was this month. You're always one step behind. Let me break down an example that really illustrates this. You've got a $3,000 balance. You make a $200 payment mid-cycle, feeling good about yourself. Your balance drops to $2,800. But when your statement closes, the interest charge is calculated based on your average daily balance for that entire month, which factors in all the days you were carrying $3,000, not just the days after you paid it down to $2,800. So you're getting charged interest on money you already paid back. It's like paying rent on an apartment for the entire month even though you moved out on the 15th. The system is designed to maximize how much interest they can extract from every dollar of debt you carry. This is why people can pay on their cards for years and feel like they're barely making a dent. Because they're not barely making a dent, they're literally barely making a dent. The math isn't on your side. The structure isn't built for your success. It's built for their profit. And the longer you stay in the system, making consistent payments but never quite getting free, the more valuable you are to them. Alex finally understands this now. All those years of paying, all that discipline and responsibility, all those sacrifices to make sure the payment went through, it wasn't moving them toward freedom nearly as fast as they thought. They were feeding a machine that's designed to keep them engaged for as long as possible. And the gut-wrenching part is realizing how much money has already been lost to this system. Money that could have gone toward building something, investing in something, experiencing something. Instead, it evaporated into interest charges that never even touched the original debt. The hopelessness that sets in when you really understand this is real. Because it feels like the game is unwinnable. You're trying to climb out of a hole, but the hole has a mechanism that makes it deeper the longer you're in it. And the tools you've been given to escape, the minimum payment option, the low monthly commitment, the manageable terms, are actually the tools that keep you trapped. It's like being given a spoon to dig out of a pit that's filling with water. Sure, you can keep digging, but you're never going to get ahead of the water line. And here's something that's going to make you even more frustrated. The credit card companies know all of this. They have entire teams of data scientists and behavioral economists whose job is to figure out exactly how to structure payments, fees, and interest rates to maximize long-term engagement. They study default rates, payment patterns, balance carry behavior. They know that if they make the minimum payment too high, people will default. They know that if they make it too low, it'll take forever to pay off and people will get frustrated and close their accounts. So they've found this perfect middle ground where the payment feels doable, progress feels possible, but escape remains perpetually just out of reach. This isn't conspiracy theory stuff. This is documented business strategy. You can find investor presentations from credit card companies where they literally talk about optimizing the revenue per account by extending the payoff timeline while maintaining high payment consistency. they're not hiding it from their shareholders. They're just not advertising it to their customers. So where does that leave someone like Alex? Where does that leave you if you're in this situation right now? The traditional advice is to pay more than the minimum, which yes, is mathematically better. Or to do a balance transfer to a lower interest card, which can help but often just delays the problem. Or to consolidate with a personal loan, which might lower your rate but locks you into a longer payment schedule. All of these strategies exist within the same system, playing by the same rules that are fundamentally designed to benefit the lender more than the borrower. The real transformation that needs to happen isn't just tactical. It's a complete reframing of how you think about debt, payments, and what being responsible actually means. Because the system has conditioned you to believe that making consistent minimum payments is responsible behavior, when in reality, it's exactly what keeps you trapped. Responsible within their framework means profitable for them and costly for you. Escreve AI, agora eu entendo, essa revelação mudo como você vê seus próprios pagamentos. But understanding the trap is only the beginning, because now we gotta talk about what actually changes when you shift your entire approach. But understanding the trap is only the beginning, because now we gotta talk about what actually changes when you shift your entire approach. Look, if you made it this far, you're already different from most people. Most folks would have clicked away the second this got uncomfortable, the second it challenged what they thought they knew. But you stayed. You sat through the whole thing. You let yourself feel that discomfort, and that says something real about where you're at right now. You're ready to see things differently. You're ready to stop accepting the default narrative about how this stuff is supposed to work. So here's what I want you to do. If this video landed for you, if something clicked, if you feel like you finally understand why you've been stuck even though you've been trying so hard, drop a comment right now and just say, essa mensagem foi pra mim. Because I read every single comment, and honestly, knowing this reached you and made a difference is what keeps me making these videos. This isn't surface level content. This isn't clickbait stuff that wastes your time. This is real talk about systems that affect your actual life, and if that's valuable to you, let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do that now. Because this is just one piece of a much bigger picture. There's so much more to unpack about how money actually works versus how we're told it works, and I'm gonna keep breaking it down in ways that actually make sense. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because trust me, we're just getting started. Also, tap that like button if this changed how you see your own situation. The algorithm pushes videos that get early engagement, and the more people who see this, the more people who get to have that same moment of clarity you just had. That actually matters. And yo, there's another video right here that goes even deeper into what you can actually do once you understand all this. It's the natural next step. So click that, keep this momentum going, and I'll see you there.